Alright, so this is section 6.4, which is over rectangles. So, for starters, by definition, a rectangle is just a quadrilateral that has 4 right angles. Rectangles are also going to be parallelograms, so not only do rectangles have 4 right angles, they also have all of the properties of parallelograms, which are that opposite sides are parallel, opposite angles are congruent, opposite sides are congruent, consecutive angles are supplementary, and that the diagonals bisect each other. So these sides are going to be congruent to these sides. Your angles are going to be congruent here. These sides are going to be parallel. These sections here are going to be congruent, so are these two. And T and U are going to be supplementary. Along with that, all 4 angles are going to be right angles, so all of these are 90 degrees. And the diagonals are congruent, so SU is congruent to TR. So example 1 says that quadrilateral RUTS is a rectangle. So we know it's a rectangle. So if SU equals 6x plus 3 and RT equals 7x minus 2, find x. So what we know about those two are those are our diagonals. And according to our properties list here, the diagonals are congruent in a rectangle. So that means that we can say that US equals RT. So we can say that 6x plus 3 equals 7x minus 2. We are going to subtract 6x on both sides and get that 3 equals x minus 2. Then we're going to add 2 to both sides and we get that 5 equals x. So I want you to pause the video and try this one on your own. Okay, so if we know that AE equals 36 and we know that CE equals 2x minus 4, then since these are both parts of our diagonals, we know that our diagonals of a rectangle bisect each other. So AE equals CE. From there, we can say that 36 equals 2x minus 4. I can add 4 to both sides. I get that 40 equals 2x. If I divide by 2, I get that 20 equals x. So example 2, quadrilateral RUTS above is a rectangle. So if the measure of angle STR is 8x plus 3 and the measure angle UTR is 16x minus 9, find the measure of STR. So in this case, they told us that it's a rectangle, and if it's a rectangle, that means that angle S, angle T, angle U, and angle R are all 90-degree angles. So since they're all 90-degree angles, I can say that the measure angle STR plus measure angle UTR equals 90. So 8x plus 3 plus 16x minus 9 equals 90. If I combine like terms, I get that 24x minus 6 equals 90. If I add 6 to both sides, get that 24 equals 96. If I divide by 24, I get that x equals 4. But in this case, I wasn't asked to find x, I was asked to find the measure of angle STR. So I need to take and plug 4 in, and I get that STR equals 35. So again, you should pause the video, try this one on your own. So the measure of angle DAC equals 2x plus 4. The measure of angle BAC is 3x plus 1. They want you to find the measure of BAC. So for starters, these are, again, this is a rectangle, so that means that these angles, this angle here is a 90-degree angle. So I can say that DAC plus BAC equals 90. So 2x plus 4 plus 3x plus 1 equals 90. If I combine like terms, I get that 5x plus 5 equals 90. If I subtract 5 from both sides, I get that 5x equals 85. I divide by 5 on both sides, I get that x equals 17. And once I know that x equals 17, I can plug that in to BAC. So it'll be 3 times 17 plus 1. 3 times 17 is 51, plus 1 is 52. Now, this is probably the harder concept to grasp, the second concept, but I also know that these problems take a little longer, so I didn't have you do any practice problems in the video. So in this case, we're asked to prove that parallelograms are rectangles. So since the diagonals of a rectangle are congruent, the converse is also true, which means that if the diagonals of a parallelogram are congruent, then it's a rectangle. So if I can show that the diagonals are congruent, then I know that it's a rectangle. So in the coordinate plane, you can use distance formula, slope formula, and properties of diagonals to show that a figure is a rectangle. So this example will show you both using slope formula and using distance formula to do this. So we have quadrilateral A, B, C, D, and they've graphed it here. And they want you to determine whether or not it's a rectangle. Now, first off, they just tell you it's a quadrilateral, so you can't assume that it's a parallelogram. So for starters, you're going to have to find the slope. If you're going to use slope formula, you have to find the slope of AB, BC, CD, and AD. And you need AB's slope to be the same as CD's slope. You need AD's slope to be the same as BC's slope. So, if I find those slopes, I find that AB's slope is the same as CD's slope using slope formula. They're both 3. I also found that AD's slope is the same as BC's slope. So now that I have all these slopes found, I can start looking at how how these slopes are related to each other. So I need to see how AB's slope is related to BC's slope, because if this is a right angle, that means that these two lines are perpendicular. So I need to make sure that the slope of AB is an opposite reciprocal to the slope of AD. So 3 and 1/3 are opposite reciprocals. So that means that AB is perpendicular to AD, which means that these are right angles, which means I know that this is a rectangle. So the second method uses distance formula. And since, again, I don't know that this is a quadrilateral, or I don't know this is a parallelogram, I have to find the distance between A and B, the distance between C and D, and make sure they're the same. Find the distance between B and C, and the distance between A and D. Make sure they're the same. So, that's what we've done here. We found that AB has a distance of the square root of 10, and CD also has a distance of the square root of 10. BC has a distance of the square root of 40, and AD has a distance of the square root of 40. So, with all of that information, I know that this is for sure a parallelogram. So now I just need to make sure that the diagonals are congruent to each other. So I need to make sure that AC is congruent to BD. And in this case, they're both the square root of 50. So that means the diagonals are congruent. So this must be a rectangle. Realize that there are a lot of places where you can make errors in these problems. They're not too difficult, but you need to make sure that you're keeping things straight. Good luck.